please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
So there you have it. Kamal Haasan has waded into the political waters as expected. Next will be, of course, Rajnikant. But let's get you the latest now from the mega 11,400 crore rupee fraud at Punjab National Bank, and that continues to be our top focus this Wednesday evening. At the outset, let's take you through all the developments surrounding the scam at PNB. The new day fraught with scam updates saw a new letter written by Nirav Modi. This time, he's addressed that letter to his employees, where he has said that he is not in a position to pay their dues and it would be right on their part to look for other career opportunities. This, even as Network 18 now learns that Nirav Modi has a Belgian passport which he used to travel out of Davos. This is the reason that official sources are telling us that Indian authorities were not able to track him. Nirav Modi gave up his Indian citizenship last year and has been illegally holding two passports, one Indian and the other Belgian. Latest on the investigation front now, sources telling CNBC Tv18 that over 150 shell companies are on the Enforcement Directorate's radar. The ED has now started investigations on 17 locations that are believed to be housing these companies. This information follows the arrest of Rajesh Bindal, who was the general manager at PNB's beleaguered Brady House branch between August 2009 and May of 2011, the period during which fake LOUs or letters of undertakings had allegedly started being issued. This is the 12th arrest that's been made by the CBI in this matter so far. Meanwhile, the centre today opposed two public interest litigations that were submitted before the Supreme Court. The first had called for deportation of Nirav Modi and also called for an independent investigation of his illegal dealings with the Punjab National Bank. That was the first PIL. The second PIL had sought a court-monitored probe into the 11,300 crore rupee scam. The Supreme Court will hear the matter on the 16th of March now. Well, we've been speaking with top industry voices on this issue, what they make of one of the biggest banking frauds in India's history. Let's get you some of the reactions.
I am not in a position to comment on what has happened in PNB because I am sure that PNB management would be and their board would be taking stock of the situation, what has gone wrong. But prima facie, yes, it is apparent that all the three lines of defense failed to work, and as I said that it is very unusual. It should have not happened. Frauds can happen, but then they can be detected in a very short time, and frauds may be small and may not be detected for a relatively longer time. But this is very unusual that a fraudulent practice of such magnitude goes for such a long period.
I would not hold RBI responsible for what has happened. RBI has some responsibility in terms of supervision, in terms of reviews. But the reality is that the governance of these banks has to be improved.
Those were some of the big voices, including you heard Rajneesh Kumar there, the managing director of SBI. Let's get you a view from another banker. I'm embarrassed as a banker. That's what Uday Kotak's reaction was to the 11,400 crore rupee alleged fraud at PNB. Reacting to Nirav Modi's scandal, Kotak said, it's time now to focus on a new institutional framework for public sector banks and not finger-pointing at bankers, regulators or others. Shireen Bhan earlier in the day caught up with Uday Kotak ahead of this year's Chasing Growth annual conference held by the group. Uday Kotak also hinted that there could be further correction in the stock markets, and which he said will only make the Dalal Street more healthy.
I remember having a chat with you in exactly the same spot last year, and we were talking about the governance premium that India enjoys. In light of what we're seeing happen today, specifically with the public sector banking stocks and its after effect on corporate India in general, do you believe that there is a loss of that governance premium?
I think what's happening in India now from the point of view of institutional investors and investors in general is that the number of companies which would get governance premium would narrow. And I think India overall has to really do a series of things to ensure that we don't get governance discount. And in that context, I'm happy that on behalf of a committee which was formed by SEBI, which I had the privilege of chairing, we have submitted our corporate governance report, and we are awaiting the government and SEBI to take the next steps on that towards a better governed corporate India.
Do you think that there is a need for urgency today? And, you know, I remember listening to what you had to say in Delhi a couple of days ago, where you said that as a banker, you stand ashamed about what has happened as far as the NPA situation is concerned and how the NPA situation has gone out of control, so to speak. You said you were embarrassed, you were ashamed. Again, I ask you this in light of what we've seen happen, because it's not just negligence. It seems to point towards complicity.
You know, I continue to believe that I am embarrassed as a banker, and even more as a part of the financial sector in terms of what has happened in India, especially based on the reports as of now, which is in addition to the whole issue about stress in the financial sector. I think we have to really think about two major areas of the future for banking and finance. That is around governance and ownership of banks in India. And we have talked about it. I think the time has come now for a significant policy and institutional thinking on that, rather than more talk. There's a hell of a lot of talk which has gone on. And without pointing fingers, which seems to be the name of the game right now, whether it is the regulator or the banker or anybody else, I think the focus has to be to find institutional framework and a policy kind of approach to fixing some of the key issues in Indian banking.
What would be a healthy correction?
I think we have seen a close to 8 to 10% correction in the big caps, and probably a 20 to 30% correction in the small and mid caps. So somewhere in the single digit corrections from here is what I would, in the big caps, is what I would see as getting the markets to a fundamentally more healthy level. Now, whether there's 5%, 10%, I think that's something which would give fundamental corrections. But keep in mind, beyond fundamentals, technicals can move markets on either side quite a bit. And fundamentals are not static as well. It also depends on a lot of changing factors. So you've got to keep on moving your fundamental value with the changes. The good news, as I see it today, okay, is over the last 3 or 4 years, whenever we would talk about chasing growth, we had a wonderful macroeconomic tailwind in our favor. This time around, as I speak to you, I think micro has picked up. We are seeing growth on the ground, but the macro tailwinds are not as favorable as they were over the last 3 years.
So Uday Kotak in conversation with Shireen Bhan, reacting on the PNB fraud, also speaking that if there's a minor correction in the markets, that will only be healthy. But staying with markets, and let's get you the latest on how the Dalal Street fared in trade today. A rally in the last hour of trade pushed the markets in the green, which otherwise traded in a narrow range-bound session throughout the day. The Nifty, which ended just shy of the 10,400 mark, was aided by a sharp reversal in bank stocks. The Sensex too gained close to about 0.5%. That's as far as the Sensex goes. Let's also get you how the mid-caps performed in trade today. There was a mild underperformance on that front. The IT index, however, outperformed, surging more than 2% in trade. Gitanjali Gems, which has been at the center of the PNB fraud, plunged another 10% to hit its lowest trading permissible limit for the day. The stock has suffered an erosion of 419 crore rupees from its market valuation in the past 1 week alone. PNB stock, meanwhile, ended flat for the day. Apart from naming Mehul Choksi, one of CBI's FIRs in the PNB fraud case has named 5 people who it says are directors with Gitanjali Group. But when CNBC Tv18's Utkarsh Chaturvedi tried tracking down these directors, he found something rather unusual. Find out for yourself.
Name Mihir Joshi. Designation Director Geely India. Address Room number 2, Manu Prasad Chaul, Dahisar East. Name Dinesh Bhatia. Designation Director Nakshatra World and Director Geely India. Address Room number 3, Bhatia Nivas, Babu Genu Road. If you're familiar with Mumbai, you'd note that these addresses don't point to swanky locations and fancy colonies. These addresses are essentially dingy one-room tenements in Mumbai's slums. something one would not generally associate with a director at a company which boasted a turnover of multiple crore rupees. This dissonance between designation and address applies to at least 3 other people who are, on paper, directors of companies promoted by Mehul Choksi.
We thought we'll go to the addresses to check if the people named in the FIR are authentic or not. And we knew that if they are authentic, they will not be willing to speak on camera given the investigations are on. So we carried a spy cam along.
We started our search with Mihir Bhaskar Joshi, who is listed as the company secretary for Gili India. Official records show he joined the company in 2016. When we neared the address on record, we had to walk the distance. And when we got there, we found someone else in residence.
2 number यही है
2 number यही है रूम उनका है पर मैं भाड़े से रहती हूँ इधर नहीं रहती
अच्छा रूम उनका है वो यहाँ नहीं रहते
उनका कुछ कांटेक्ट नंबर मिलेगा
वो भी भाड़े में रहते हैं आशीर्वाद बी करके सेकंड फ्लोर
So we headed to this new address and only managed to verbal confirmation that Mihir Joshi was in residence.
नहीं सर है
कोई नहीं
एक बार बच्चों से मुलाकात करनी है
लेकिन है नहीं कोई
मैं बोला था आपको इनसे ये करके नहीं लगा
तो सर कहाँ पे काम करते हैं मैडम जिले इंडिया में
पता नहीं वो तो हमको पता नहीं हम तो मेहमान हैं
We failed to lay eyes on Mihir Joshi, but his unavailability at that moment was not really suspicious. So we headed to the next person named in the FIR, Ms. Jyoti Vohra, who lives in Andheri and is the independent director of Nakshatra Brand Limited.
Finding Jyoti Vohra's apartment was not difficult. Her address was listed as 0728A, Hill Rock Society, Swatantra Sainik Nagar, Amboli. When we got there, we did find Jyoti Vohra. She lives with her daughter in an apartment which is less than 200 square feet in area and boasts one room with an attached kitchen. She was also hospitable but refused to answer questions.
आप डायरेक्टर हैं कंपनी में?
हाँ डायरेक्टर हूँ कंपनी में।
जब हम एफआईआर देख रहे थे तो आपका भी नाम था उसमें।
मेरे को कुछ कमेंट्स उसके ऊपर देनी नहीं है बस आपको जो मिला है that is true.
These are just 2 of the 5 directors named in the FIR, and the problem is not their authenticity, but the fact that their living conditions do not match with the usual lifestyle of the directors of a multi-crore company. And then we ask a question that were these directors actually involved in day-to-day decision making, or were just dummy directors being paid a small fees to get all the decisions done? In Mumbai, Utkarsh Chaturvedi.
Well, the case gets curiouser and curiouser. On to a consumer interest story now. Retirement fund body Employees Provident Fund Organization has decided to cut its interest rates, but only marginally. The EPFO, which held a meeting of its Central Board of Trustees earlier, has revised its interest payout to 8.55% from earlier 8.65%. Yash Jain now joins in with the very latest. So Yash, not a big cut, so thank God for that. But what else can you tell us?
Well, Ron, 2 most important takeaways from EPFO's board meeting which took place early today. Of course, as you mentioned, the retirement body has cut the interest rate which it would be paying to its 5 crore subscribers in FY18 to 8.55% versus 8.65% in the previous year. But do remember, this is the second consecutive interest rate cut, essentially starting from 8.8% in FY16 to 8.65% in FY17, and now for FY18 coming down to 8.55%. Now, we understand that this new interest rate of 8.55% will lead to an outflow of approximately 45,000 crores annually, which is in the year FY18 from EPFO's kitty. Now, apart from this, we are also given to understand that the retirement body has also approved the proposal of mandating companies with a minimum employee strength of 10 employees to compulsorily register itself with EPFO. Remember, this number currently stands at 20 employees, and the CBT, which is the apex decision-making body, body has approved the proposal to reduce it to 10 employees. But we are also given to understand that this won't be implemented directly and with immediate effect, as the Labour Minister right now wants to have more discussion with SMEs in terms of understanding what is the trouble which they would face with this particular implementation, and then gradually look at implementing this new particular proposal. So yes, cut in interest rate, a minor cut in interest rate, which brings a minor disappointment for the EPFO subscribers, but on the positive side of it, they have and are looking at increasing and widening the bandwidth of EPFO by bringing in more and more organizations, and which will of course lead to the formalization of the economy going forward as well.
Absolutely, absolutely, Yash. Thanks very much. Interesting details there, as Yash was pointing out. A marginal cut in the interest rates on EPFO, but on the other hand, they're also trying to expand the base of companies who are registered with the EPFO, of course, subject to Labour Ministries. Not time for us to slip into another break here on What's Hot, but up next, movie star Kamal Haasan officially begins his political journey, names it Makkal Nidhi Mayam. That big political story when we come back.
இந்த கட்சியின் பெயர் மக்கள் நீதி.
Welcome back. He is known for running marathons, and it's just been a year since he occupied the corner office at Bombay House, so he's only warming up to the task. It has been an eventful year, to say the least, for N. Chandrasekaran as the chairman of Tata Sons. What are the hits, what are his misses, and what is his unfinished agenda? Prashant Nair now joins in with his special report on N. Chandra at 365. Prashant, take us through the key highlights.
Oh, it's been an absolutely eventful year at Tata Sons, and what we're basically going to do is take a look at the big fixes. Essentially, these were businesses which were not doing well, which were bleeding cash and needed an immediate fix. Let's begin with Tata Teleservices. The dispute with NTT Docomo was hurting the reputation at the group, and it wasn't going down well for the group internationally. $1.2 billion dispute resolved. As a result of that, the mobile business sold to Bharti late last year. Come to Tata Steel. The process started earlier, but the merger of the European business with ThyssenKrupp happened. Now, of course, Tata Steel is looking to buy stressed steel assets. Look at Tata Motors. Not one initiative, a bunch of things, but as a result of it, the long-forgotten commercial vehicle business is on the rebound again. You look at Tata Communications. Again, I mean, the process started before the approval to sell land parcels, valuable land parcels, has actually come through under Chandra's tenure. So a bunch of things, big fixes per se, which I think has got the ball rolling as far as Tata Sons is concerned. Now, of course, the market's focus is going to be the steady state operational efficiency which Chandra can drive at group businesses in terms of what he did earlier at TCS. We spoke with a bunch of Tata insiders, outsiders, group watchers, and this is their opinion. Listen in.
I think along with shareholder wealth, the restructuring, the kind of cleaning up he's done has been remarkable. When he inherited, there was already some existing issues around, what had happened. So I think he's calmed things down. He's restructured, Tata Steel, the European operations. He's got out of telecom already by exiting that business. I think in 1 year, if you list out the kind of things achieved, especially at a structural level, I think it has been phenomenal.
I would say that whatever he does, he would think well with respect to every stakeholder. He would ask the question, will this decision of mine enhance respect for me and for the Tata Group? And therefore, I have no doubt at all that whatever he does, as I have seen him do when he was leading TCS, would be to the best of the stakeholders.
I think it's an exemplary case of an uncluttered mind. I think in India we haven't seen many minds of this quality. When I see Chandra, I see this software man with an extraordinary sense of finance and direction. The fact that he ran a large empire in terms of people employed was less of a qualification, but he took software solutions to hundreds of clients around the world and believed in those solutions, and that's what he has brought to his job.
Well, he sure has an unfinished agenda, but he is on the right track. That's the expert voices weighing in on N. Chandra finishing a year at Tata Sons. Meanwhile, the insolvency space is buzzing with activity. On to the latest now in the race for Bhushan Power and Steel. Sources telling us that the firm's lenders will take a final call on the bids for Bhushan Power next month. Also, Liberty House's bid is believed to have been disqualified. For more on that, Ritu Singh joins in with the very latest. So, Ritu, it seems Tata Steel is in the lead to buy out Bhushan Power. But what are you picking up from your sources? What more can you tell us?
That's right. Tata Steel is very much in the lead to buy out Bhushan Power and Steel's assets. In a committee of creditors meeting held today with the IRP, it was decided to reject the bid offered by Liberty House without opening the bid because of the fact that the Liberty House bid for Bhushan Power's assets came after the deadline had ended. This really sets an example for other cases to follow where bids, bankers are clearly sending out a signal that bids will not be accepted if they do not meet the criteria laid down in the IBC norms. Now understand that Tata Steel is, as of now, the highest bidder with an offer of 17,000 crore upfront cash payment and 7,500 crore equity infusion into Bhushan Power, miles ahead of what JSW Steel had offered for the company, and therefore negotiations will continue with Tata Steel. And we understand that 6th of March is the D-Day where the Committee of Creditors will be meeting again to evaluate the final offer as far as Tata Steel is concerned and then present the case to the NCLT.
Well, thanks for that, Ritu. The big political story now. Tamil movie star Kamal Haasan has finally taken his political plunge. As expected, he announced the launch of his party called Makkal Needhi Mayyam, which loosely translates to People's Justice Front. Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal joined Kamal Haasan on the stage as he announced the launch of the party. The Tamil soul is burning, said Kamal Haasan, as he promised to form a government that will listen to the people and not tell people what to do.
இனி கடமை இருக்கிறது நமக்கு. இது ஒரு நாள் கொண்டாட்டம் அல்ல.
We have a duty from now on.
முறையாக போகிறது நமக்கெல்லாம்.
This is not a one-day celebration.
அது நினைவில் இருக்கட்டும்.
It's going to be a way of life for all of us.
இந்த சந்தோஷத்துடன்
With this happiness, let me remind you, comes responsibility.
என்பதை உணருங்கள்.
You have to be a forerunner and example for others.
நீங்கள் எடுத்துக்காட்டாகவும் முன்னோடிகளாகவும் விளங்க வேண்டும்.
Well, there's never a dull moment in Tamil politics. We'll delve into that on India Business Hub, but allow us to say goodbye to you on this edition of What's Hot. But don't go anywhere. Up next is we wrap up all the market action for you on Markets Today Talk Back. That will take all the action forward. Goodbye.